One of the reasons Career Crossroads feels so confusing is because women often try to make the decision at the level of opportunity before they make it at the level of values. They ask, should I take the role? Should I leave? Should I choose the position that makes sense on paper or the one that feels more true? And underneath all of those questions is something even deeper. What actually matters most to me now? That is a values question. And many women don't realize just how much values shape clarity because values are not just nice words. They are not just ideals you admire. Values shape what feels meaningful and what feels worth the cost. So when you're a woman living too far from your values, something inside you often knows it before you can fully put it into words. And that's why a career crossroads can feel so uncomfortable. It's not always only about what you're doing. Sometimes it's about the way you are living is asking you to compromise. And once you begin to see that clearly, the confusion starts changing shape. Because now you're not only asking, what should I do? You're asking, what kind of career or life would actually feel true for me to live? And that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to talk about why values matter more than many women think at a career crossroads, and why they're often one of the clearest guides a person has, and why so many smart decisions feel wrong when they violate what matters most. Welcome to another episode of the Leadership Purpose with Dr. Robin podcast. I'm so glad you're here and listening into the podcast. I really appreciate you. And as you may know, this is a space where we talk about leadership, purpose, identity, and the deeper questions thoughtful people encounter as their careers evolve. And over the last several episodes, we've been moving deeper into the identity work underneath a career crossroads. We've talked about the questioning, the pattern underneath it, why achievement doesn't always create clarity. We talked about why strategy alone often fails, why the inner signs matter. We talked about why this season is often about reconnection rather than reinvention. And the last few episodes, we talked about why your story holds clues and why being good at something is not always the same as being aligned with it. So today we're continuing this series and I want to talk about values. I want to talk about them in a practical way because often when women hear the word values, it can sometimes feel vague. But values are one of the most concrete things you can understand at a career crossroads because values shape what feels worth it, what feels worth it to you, I would even add. They shape what you can live with, what you cannot keep ignoring, and what kind of success feels significant versus what kind of success starts feeling hollow. And when values are clear, that helps decisions become clearer too. Not always easy, but clearer. Values are not just ideals, they are inner standards. And I think one of the biggest misunderstandings about values is that people treat them like inspirational words. Words like integrity, freedom, impact, words like family, growth, contribution. And yes, values can be named with words like that, but values are not powerful because they sound good. They're powerful because they function like inner standards. They help determine what feels right, what feels off, what feels worthy, and what feels like too much of a compromise. And that matters here because many of us do not realize that we are in a values conflict until we feel exhausted, restless, resentful, or strangely disconnected from our own life or career. Sometimes high achieving women at a career crossroad feeling like this think it's just an issue of stress, or maybe they think it's timing or workload. But sometimes the deeper issue is that they're succeeding inside conditions that violate what matters most to them. Maybe they value meaning, but their work increasingly feels empty. And maybe they value depth, but they're in a career culture built around speed and performance. And maybe they value contribution, but they're spending most of their energy on things that feel disconnected from what they care about. And that's not a small tension. That is a values tension. And values tension has a way of wearing on the soul. So values become especially important at a career crossroads because this is often the moment when a woman can no longer pretend that external success is enough. This is often the moment when she begins noticing that the question is not only, can I do this? It's also, do I want to live this way? And that's a values question. And I think that is one reason so many career crossroads feel so personal because the decision is not only about work. It's about work, but not only about work. It's about the terms of life. Like, what do I want my days to feel like? What kind of environment can I thrive in? What kind of compromise is too much? Those are values questions. And if a woman tries to make a major decision without understanding her values more clearly, she may choose something logical that still feels wrong. Not because she's irrational, but because the choice violates something deep in her. And that is why values matter so much, because they explain why two options that look equally good on paper can feel profoundly different in real life. So, next, I want to talk about how values often reveal themselves through friction. So, one of the clearest ways values show up is through friction. You often learn what matters most, not only by what you love, but by what wears on you, what repeatedly bothers you, what drains you, what repeatedly makes you feel compromised or cramped or unseen or misused. That friction can be frustrating, yes, but it's also informative because often what irritates you consistently is not random. It points to something you value that's not being honored. If you repeatedly feel depleted in environments where everything is rushed, maybe pace and depth matter more to you than you realize. If you feel increasingly frustrated in environments where image matters more than substance, maybe authenticity and integrity matter more than you have realized. And if you feel worn down in work that pays well, but feels disconnected from meaning, maybe contribution matters more deeply than external success alone. Friction is not the whole story, though, but it is often a clue because values tend to protest when they're being ignored. And that protest can show up as resentment, fatigue, numbness, cynicism, or even quiet sadness. And many women misread those feelings as weakness because they feel like they're not living up to their full strength. But what they really are messages, messages about what matters. And success without values alignment, it starts feeling hollow. Not always immediately, and sometimes it takes years. The external rewards may be strong enough to carry things for a long time, but eventually, if the way you're succeeding keeps violating what matters most to you, the success starts losing its power to satisfy. It may look good, it may pay well, and it may even still impress others, but the internal experience changes because your values are still there. And if they're being neglected long enough, some part of you begins feeling the emptiness of that gap. And this is one reason women can reach major milestones and still feel unresolved. The milestone may have marked success, but it did not resolve the deeper value conflict. And values can explain why a good opportunity feels wrong. This is where values become especially practical. A woman may be looking for an opportunity that is objectively good, a strong role, good pay, smart move, a respectable next step, and yet something in her hesitates. Often she judges that hesitation. She thinks, why am I making this so difficult? This is a good opportunity. But good is not always the same as right, and values often explain why. So maybe the opportunity would require a pace that violates what she needs for health, family, or wholeness. Or maybe it would reward a style of leadership that feels disconnected from how she wants to live. Or maybe it would ask her to keep sacrificing something she realized is no longer a negotiable for her. This is why a woman can be drawn to one option on paper and another inside her spirit or soul. Her spirit or soul is often registering a values reality before the mind has fully named it. And that doesn't mean every hesitation is truth, but it does mean hesitation deserves interpretation, not immediate dismissal. Values help you name the cost. And one of the most powerful things values do is help you name the cost of a path more honestly. Without values clarity, a woman may ask, what will I gain? But values invite another question. What will this cost me? And is that cost worth it? That's important because every path has a cost. Every yes has a cost. Every no has a cost. The question is not whether there is a cost. The question is whether the cost violates something that matters too deeply to keep overriding. For one woman, the cost may be peace. For another, freedom. Or another, family presence. For another, integrity or meaning. And when a woman can name that clearly, she stops making decisions as if the only thing that matters is the opportunity itself. Now she's asking a wiser question. What is this asking me to trade, and how do I keep making that trade? I want to say that again. She's asking, what is this asking me to trade, and do I want to keep making the trade? That's what I meant to say. Do I want to keep making the trade? And that is much deeper, a much deeper way of deciding. When values become clearer, decision making changes. A woman can become less impressed by options that only look good externally, less likely to keep saying yes to what violates what really matters. She's more able to identify what kind of success she can actually respect in her own life. And that's powerful because at a career crossroads, clarity is not only about knowing what opportunity exists, it's about knowing what you want your life to stand on. And values help you with that. They anchor the decision in significance, not just strategy. Okay, so before we close, I want to leave you with a few questions to reflect on to help you get at some clarity. Here's the first question. What feels most significant and important to you in this season of life? Next question. Where in your life are your values being honored? And where are your values being strained or ignored? And last one. What would change if you made your next decision not only around opportunity, but around significance? Sometimes a career crossroads becomes clearer the moment a woman stops asking only what can work and starts asking what would feel true. So, in the next episode, we're going to bring several of these threads together. We have quite a few threads going here. We're going to bring some of them together because when you begin to understand your clues and your natural abilities and your values, the next question becomes, how do I actually use all of this to make a decision? So in the next episode, we're going to talk about what it means to make what I call purpose-aligned decisions and why deciding from your deeper self changes everything. So if you're at a career crossroads, I want to leave you with this. Your values matter more than you think, way more than you think. They're not extra, they're not just decorative, and they're not secondary to the decision. They're often the deeper truth inside the decision. And when you honor that truth, clarity begins to take on a different quality, a steadier quality, a truer quality. So I want to thank you for listening to this episode. And if this conversation resonated with you, please be sure to follow the podcast so you don't miss the next episode in this series. And until next time, this is Dr. Robin.